unfortunate on Ireland's behalf, but they definitely gave it their all, I think. Would you say?
Yeah. I mean, Ireland was in this weird spot where I think they had an understanding. They had an understanding that they probably aren't going to make it out of groups, and I think that's why they played with the lineup that they did. It was just simply to like give other people a chance to compete, because like that Ireland roster is 10 people deep, a lot of which hadn't been able to play, I think, or hadn't been able to play very much.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's like if we're gonna have like people, if we're not gonna make it out, we may as well let people have fun, right? And LTA actually did something similar on their side. They were kind of acknowledging that this was going to be an easier match, and they let some of the people that aren't in their starting lineup play. Because you can see now from like what's on the screen, we actually have a different LTA lineup coming into this match, going back to their starting lineup of Brawley, Mike, Gomez, Edu, who's Akmi, some people might recognize him as, and Jaggy backing up the lineup as the bagger. Both of those teams were kind of doing the same thing, where just giving other people the alternative to play on this stage that for Mario Kart especially, not very many people get to play on.
Absolutely, and it's good to have that kind of team mentality, team spirit, where obviously if you can, then you can afford to swap your members out so everybody gets an opportunity, unless of course your team literally only consists of 5 people, but I think most teams have like a minimum of at least, I want to say 8, possibly. But yeah, seeing half of the roster being swapped out with, Broly and Gomez and Edo as well, should be interesting for sure. Who have we got on the US West lineup? Familiarize me with the names, because I'm
Absolutely. I think with some of these names, you'll actually be very familiar with them, because some of them have just gone through like name changes and things like that. So on one, we have TK64, an old face, been around for a long time. Killua, formerly just Cool, of a famed Infected with Skill. Sane, I think a newer player relative to the other people on the team. He is kind of became good more in the Weemfi era, from my understanding. Jack, formerly just Jax in earlier years. He was IS Jax, not Jake Jax. We had 2 Jaxes that became very good. And then Bobby, also having played for a long time and rocking a different tag way back when, but he's come to prominence as a bagger in recent years as well. So I can't recall what his tag used to be. But I think the main thing to do with this lineup is they haven't scrimmed very much. They haven't like practiced a lot together, but I think it's made up for by, in this case, like Jack, Cool, and TK have all played together a lot over the years, whether it be on like WZ or on other teams. Jack and Cool, for those who don't know, brothers. So obviously have spent a lot of time playing each other, however long the game has been out. And then Bobby is just kind of like this really, really talented bagger that I think fits into any team. And then Sane just kind of like rounds out this lineup as a really solid player, even though he doesn't play very much with the rest of the crew. So I think this lineup is just very, very strong.
Yeah, I've recognized pretty much all of the players minus like the 1 or 2 that you said, but it sounds like they have good synergy. So even without the scrim practice, they've already got some former experience, playing the game with each other in their respective clans and whatnot. So it should be interesting regardless. Jumping into it already, right off the bat with Dry Ruins. Interesting one to start on now. Normally it's a Bowser's Castle, I've noticed.
Yeah, Bowser Castle. It's funny how so many of the good and common tracks in this game are just like something Bowser's Castle.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think
so. We start.
This one, like, with LTA, I don't know anyone on their team. Like, I don't know if anybody on their team is like particularly well known for like racing on this track. Or at least like not that I can think of at the moment. On the side of USA though, I know like this is a really, really strong running track for like quite a few of their members. You've TT'd this one a decent amount, I believe, right?
Yeah, and back in the day, I have definitely messed around with the track. It's been a hot couple of years since I put a lot of time into it, but this has definitely become one of the more favourable ones purely because of your ability to run it. And even if at the start of lap 1, if you fall behind, you can get a power item and get it up to the front. There's just so much tech that you can use to really get like an advantage over anyone else on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. There's all these little situations like the sand hop there. I think like at this point, basically becoming standard lines almost, like especially at the top level. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and then these wall wraparounds as well. Interesting play there. I guess he felt obligated to use it, but then managed to dodge him from it. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Play. Did they get Gomez? I don't know if they got Gomez out. I think that was a US shock because it also got Jack into boxes. I have to assume that was theirs. TK getting a star right after. Definitely a pole that he wants, I think. He's going to hang on to this towards the end of the race. Once again, hitting the sand hop. No question there of whether or not he's going to be able to make it. I think LTA must be in top spots, judging from the USA runners that we've seen. But with this star in such a high position, USA is still like poised to get decent spots out of this race, I think.
Possibly. It's all going to come down to what people pull at the final set here. A bit of a flub there from the US member, Killua. I probably got bumped into the corner or into the sands. So that kind of messed with the game plan. Blue a little too late, unfortunately. Would have been nice to pull that earlier. Sometimes the game just has it out for you like that. I'm guessing that LTA were able to just get the break on that one straight off the bat, like you said, just because of the sand hop and all of the tech and whatnot. If you get people up front, there's no real way to get them out unless you get a blue. You're just relying on other people to make mistakes.
Yeah, there was so many opportunities for them to break away there. It's like the mid pack just kind of took itself out over and over again.
The thing that I want to ask you about, do you think it would have been a good idea for TK to have used that star to do the Ultra Cut after dodging? Because he pulled the star at the set coming out of the tomb lap 2. And to my understanding, I know it's not exactly free these days, but like I know you can make it with a mega and a star. Would it have been in his interest to get up there? Or do you think he was kind of holding that with the idea of, maybe I can do some magic at the end, make the cut at the end? Because I'm not entirely sure. It seemed like they had quite the break, even with the dodge. It felt like they were just gone.
I actually think it was better. It would probably have been better for him to take star cut there, like take the ultra with star, because so many members of USA were already at the back. There was a lot of US people who could still contend for dodges over the course of that lap, and they had really no representation at the front. So I think that problem needed to be solved because they fell so far behind, and that start was like the clearest opportunity to gain a lot of space on the team, on LTA. And TK, I always like feel a little weird criticizing or like saying like what TK could have done instead, because like I think TK is like one of the best players in the game, and I'm sure he had his reasons. He's also a very like competent shot caller. So maybe just things like, it cools Reds like accidentally taking TK out and kind of changing the end result. Also them not pulling shock when they needed it. Like I think there are a lot of versions of that race where what TK's decision was like ended up working out.
For sure. What I do like as a decision, though, is their decision to take it to this track, which is like a hard reset almost, but not super duper hard. I've seen a lot of this track today, and a lot of the matches becoming a fan favorite. I want to say among a lot of clans in this.
Yeah, it's amazing how common this track is now, man. I never used to play it that much, and now I play it every war, and I hate it. I still hate this track.
It's so dynamic in the sense that you've got the cut right at the start, so you can either go for the run or you can go for the bag. You've also got a few in the end spot, but you've got that middle section with all of the hedges, which is extra items. So items are in no short supply here. You can pull POWs, you can pull blues as and when you need them. You can run this because there's brilliant trapping spots for this one.
Absolutely.
TK, as you can see, like just farming shrooms there, like on the chomps in the maze, and he manages to get a really nice triple red pull right behind an LTAA player, so might be seeing him taking him out here.
Yeah, this is a really good item on this track in general because there are a lot of open and like wide spaces that make it hard to contest the reds. Nice combo from TK,
Really
Brawly
good,
getting hit a
yeah.
second time off that. LTA in second at the very least. I didn't catch who was in first. I'm not
Wherever
sure.
it is, they're gone. They're just gone.
Yeah.
Possibly. It's hard to say. I don't know if they're expecting a shock at any point. It seems that everyone's just trying to get up there at this point.
Yeah, you kind of have to close that gap. Depending on who's up there. I haven't seen Jack, so I think that may be Jack. I'm having a hard time.
This box is going to decide everything. That is possibly the best thing he could have pulled. So he's just going to hope for a lightning here, but I don't think. Oh no, absolutely fantastic. With that, TK nabs second.
The combo on Gomez at the end is going to give USA 2 more top spots. I can't wait to see who was in first at the end. I have to assume it was Jack because it was the only name I hadn't seen popping up. But if that's the case, that's a really strong USA top 3 and a really great response from them considering LTA's first race.
He may have squished his teammate. I'm not entirely sure.
I didn't catch it. Yeah. I was like, it looks like he did. Yep.
Yeah,
Jack
he
was
did.
first.
Okay. That's still a good race. It's unfortunate. Just obviously at the very end there, where you have to make a very split-second decision as to like, I pulled the Mega in fourth. Right, we got to coordinate something quick. It can just all go AWOL very, very quickly.
Yeah. Very flash of the pan.
So go for it. Go on.
Oh, my bad. I just wanted to mention that actually ties it up. We're basically back to 0. It was a 21 victory for LTA the first race and a 21 winning race for USA Return. So back, we're all tied up now. I'm sorry, what were you going to say right before?
I was going to say, you've got top 3, you've just won Peach Gardens, you're on Team USA. Where do you want to go? It seems that most of them want to go to Bowser's Castle. We've got some Delfino Square and GV thrown into the mix. Delfino Square definitely a good reset option from LTA there because of its notoriety of not really being a running track. I did hear in the previous cast someone calling Delfino a running track. No, actually no.
I swear, Brawly just likes to meme. That's like his joke is like, yeah, man, a Delfino Square a running track. But of course, to clarify to the broader audience, it is absolutely not a running track.
It has running capabilities, but just the single shroom shortcut where you pull a single shroom in second and you just save 4 seconds. Just that whole house section just completely changes the whole scope of things. That bomb right there, it looked like it took most of the people out, but I'm assuming it was lag. I didn't really catch that.
Yeah, it was a bomb that was directed at USA's top 3, but it actually only took out 1 of the 3 of them. Killua gonna find himself, I keep saying it like the booze. I cannot, it's like I'm talking about the beverage every time I say his tag.
Oh, right, I see.
He's in second, right? Did someone?
Yeah, he's second. I don't think so, no, because first was just up there already because the bomb didn't affect them. TK backing his reds and furs from assuming that they've now got like a 2-3 break. I didn't quite catch whether it was a USA member in first or not, but
I think it is. I think it is because I think I saw Jack. Jack kind of sailed away right at the beginning because he didn't get hit by the bomb, so it must be a USA top 3 right now. And TK doing his job as the person in third. You're basically because top 2 becomes a winning race in I think almost every single circumstance. The job of third place in these situations is not necessarily to keep up with his 2 teammates at the front, but to create as much space between the rest of the pack and his top 2 so that it's more secure. In this case, he's backing red after red after red, and the only really possible negative outcome is that he pulls a TC, but the shock is going to come out for LTA. It's going to close a little space, TK losing his spot, and Gomez finding himself in a top spot himself.
Really good bomb pull from TK though. He can definitely do some damage with the lower positions of LTA right now if he uses this bomb correctly, or he may opt to lob it forward to take out fourth to get himself back into third. Really smart use of dropping it there on the blind section of the ramp. He's got a POW now, so obviously not fantastic for him because his 2 teammates are up front. This would be a great turn to target POW on, but obviously you can't really make much use of that.
Yeah, it's a tough call, right? Because you have this item where you were coming through a section of the track where a lot of people can be interrupted by the POW even if they dodge it. But he ran the risk, I think, of POWing his teammates on the half pipe area, which can also be a really rough area to be POWed. He still makes the most of it. He hangs on to it for like quite a while and manages to red Akmi and then messes up, falls into the lava.
But he gets a dodge out of it. I don't know if they coordinated that because of the mistake, or if that was just a bit of pot luck there. So it seems to work out massively in his favor. Never in my life have I seen someone make an error like that and be rewarded so fruitfully for it. So massive props there. If that was USA's shot, that was a perfect way to counteract that problem. But the POW was actually really, really good because you had the spiral section, which is fatal for the POW because you essentially are forced to come to a stop to avoid being sent into the wall, which then forced one of the LTA members into a position where they were just completely vulnerable, and he managed to red them. So it's a top 2-4 for US there, which is a winning race.
Yeah, winning by 13. So now up by 13 total, 98 to 85. Yeah, that POW is really great. I think like a lot of lower level players and teams get really impatient with POW. It often becomes this thing where teammates will say like, "Hey, I have this POW. Tell me like where I can use it safely as like soon as possible." But TK held it for almost an entire lap to make sure that they maximized its effectiveness, and I really, really like that.
Yeah, that race definitely was very, very good in terms of how TK was basically using his position in third as the aggravator to toss Reds back, and then when he fell out of that position, he was still creating space between top 2 and everybody else that was coming in there. So excellent job there. It seems they want TF, which is a smart move. Having top 2 means that first place is essentially safe. Second can get the box. But we're not going to TF. We're going to the better running track, Delfino Square.
Yes, my favorite running track. Tell me more about my favorite running track. I heard you've played this track, like you've put like an hour or 2 into this one. So I want to know.
This track's really fun, man. But in a competitive setting, this track can go so far to the left or to the right. It's not even funny. So many great sections to back spam and trap and just lay endless amounts of bananas and fibs and greens around these corners. But it all just comes down to this open house section that you're about to see. Pulling triple shrooms in 4th, pulling a golden in 5th, pulling a single shroom in 2nd. All these nuances that you're just praying for. What I think the US team are going to want to do is they're going to want to have someone up front like they have right now, but they definitely need people to linger in the lower mid spots in case LTA do pull the shot or pull the POW and are able to completely, change the swing of the race. As an LTA player, I'd definitely be trying my hardest to pull a star. I think the star is probably the best item on this track because it allows you to do the double cut, and you can essentially chain it out of the cut, and you're allowed to do a shortcut that saves about 6 seconds completely free with no chance of being, destroyed for it. It seems US are going for top 2 though. We've got Killua in front, we've got TK right behind, opting not to trap the dock, which is smart because his teammate's behind him. I don't know where the scope of the rest of the players are though. We've only got the perspectives of the front at the moment, so it's hard to tell.
I think depending on who took the cut there, yeah, Jack is still in 3rd, so they've been running top 3 for pretty much the duration of this race. LTA finally contending a spot at the front. It's going to be Gomez. There are just 3 fifths.
Yeah, this last turn is pretty evil. I'm possibly going to be seeing a lot of people get destroyed by these at the very end. A very clean back red in 2nd. Blue coming out from LTA. It's going to take out Killua in 1st. It's all just going to come down to this now.
This is a lot. So much can change here in the span of this section of the track, like you were saying, because this is the part where you not only have the opportunity to do the normal cut, you also have the double cut, the dog cut available to you. The shock and the POW all affect those so distinctly, and it's going to be a shock on the way out of Mike out of the cut. I think that has to be USA's like dodging Sane.
Definitely, yeah. They got Jack out of the cut and they got Sane in the cut. They're not going to get everything. It seems like. Oh no, the fib wall. Oh, that is big. That is massive. Absolutely massive. That fib wall we were talking about, completely creating a barricade of obstacles for the LTA player. And then he was able to effectively drive into him and combo him. Massive race from USA right now.
I actually can't believe that. They like invested in the last turn, like all race, and then it paid out at the very end.
Be treating that last turn like the DK Mountain Bridge, and it worked. It worked fantastically. But yeah, no. Like I said, the shock usually always occurs in that one section, and there's not really much you can do to prevent it other than try to join in with the dodging or put yourself in a good position where you can pull a box that you don't fall too far behind. But it was definitely a really good call. I think that's got to have been another USA shock. There's no way that it could have been an LTA one.
Yeah, I think it was a good shock on two fronts, right? Because they dodged Sane taking double, because Sane was like towards the back, and I think that speaks to what you were saying about at the beginning, is like, even though you're top 3 running, you want some representative at the back of the pack, which is kind of Sane's role there. And then after Sane dodged, they also managed to shock all of LTA before they were able to take the cut, except for Mike. Who ended up hitting the fib at the end anyway. So it's just a very well-coordinated shock that accomplished exactly what they wanted. Very, very good strategy coming out from USA. And you also have to hand it to Bobby. Sorry, I have food in my mouth. Excuse me, terrible caster. You have to hand it to Bobby, because I think like a lot of this game, people get lost in the sauce of looking at the pretty points at the end of every GP, but I think Bobby got almost every shock that GP, and that has such a large effect on the outcome of the race.
I think they single-handedly saved TK in BC. I can't put it in my head to believe that he intentionally drifted into the fire pinwheel to fall off to get a dodge.
I don't think so.
If that's the strategy of 2020 Clan Wars, then I'm definitely like an old fossil from way back. If they're that woke now, that's the way to do it. But I think he was holding that, and it just circumstantially worked out. I don't know what LTJ's plan would be here for tracks. They definitely, I feel, should avoid cannon tracks, unless they're looking to pick up the shot more. But like you said, Bobby's just been nailing them so far. He's just been getting them at every succession, which is fantastic for USA, because they've been spending a lot of it near the front. Like they've definitely got 1 or 2 people up there, but then they have someone comfortably in mid-pack as well before goes astray.
TC out the gate for Brawley, a tough pull, definitely not what you want. He's probably, in his position, right, you want like triple shrooms, maybe a golden if you're a little lucky, because that's your opportunity to get really far ahead on this track at the beginning. But he gets like pretty much the worst of it. Now there's this giant gap between him and the rest of the pack. He's just going to immediately spam the star to get more items to catch up.
Yeah, having a star on this track is fantastic, but not in the position that he's in. You can't afford to be this far behind, especially when mid-pack will be getting triples and goldens, like you said. They'll just be working on expanding their lead. Tell me more about the sitting track fallacy. Like, there's certain tracks where you obviously can't drive the whole thing backwards.
Yeah.
How do you think that will affect Bobby? Do you think that plays well for LTA? That Bobby can't necessarily go backwards more?
I think on this track, not necessarily, because like even though you're kind of sitting, this one's a little more dynamic than that, as far as I understand. So like the new wave on this track is to like mix up like the boxes that you're getting at that second to last set, and then also try to pull waterfall boxes at the beginning of the tube. So it's like a little more thought out, especially with the zappers in play too, because it gives you like opportunities to lay stars down. And I think like that sort of strategic component of bagging is something Bobby is also very good at, because on the side of LTA at the moment, Jaggy is someone who used to bag and has kind of like fallen behind and is a little less experienced because he doesn't typically bag anymore, at least. And Bobby, meanwhile, is the bagger on undoubtedly the best team right now. The best, like, normal clan, if you will. Sure. So I think this track stands in Bobby's benefit, but I do think, like, once they get around to, like, Coconut Mall, for example, it definitely helps Jaggy out.
Yeah, I'm wondering if LTA would want to do that for sure. Looked like there was a blue from LTA's end there to take out US in first, which is absolutely massive. I didn't quite catch who's in first right now, though. TK doing everything in his power to get Mike out of second because they need those top spots. But it's going to be no dice.
Yeah, that was a really good attempted fib snipe. We're going to watch this last turn perspective again from Brawley. Oh, the shot getting Jack at the end. And Sane, I think. So that's Jack and Sane catching a top spot. I didn't see Killua at all at the back, so I think he may have been the player in first that whole time. We'll see what the final results are. It is funny. I think like this track, something that like is, I find it more bothersome than something I enjoy, is like, oh wait, one. Yeah, okay, so we have 1, 3, 4. Yeah, it is indeed him. There we go. Yeah. So another win by 11. They're now up by 45 total. Guys, I saw Jazz flame me for saying Killua. I can't stop saying the drink, man. I don't know how else to pronounce it. Killua. I didn't watch the anime, man. I didn't watch the anime.
Ooh. As in, ooh. That's it.
Can I just say cool? I'm just gonna say cool for the rest of it. It's just
That's
cool.
no good. No one's gonna know that. You're gonna be like, well, that was like, no, because then TK's gonna dodge a red, and you're gonna be like, oh, that was cool. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's TK. Can't do that. You're having adjectives as your name. It's rough.
Okay, fair enough. That is a problematic tag. That is a problematic tag.
Yeah, you gotta watch out for that.
But I was gonna say that last turn, I hate it.
Oh, it's everything. Yeah,
but
it's everything.
It changes so much because of like that waterfall is like so high risk, and then and it actually saves a surprising amount of time by just being able to take that turn tight. I can't believe like for how simple the layout of that last turn is, like how dynamic it is.
Speaking of dynamic, we've got a track where every single turn is a 90-degree turn, and arguably the races on this are some of the most dynamic that you'll ever see, just because there's so many different strategies that you can adopt here. 2 shortcuts you can take with and without shrooms, endless amounts of trapping opportunities. What do you think? I forget whose pick this was. I don't know if this was USA or LTA.
And I imagine this would be LTA's after that last race. Like I would suspect that. I gotta ask, dude. You're asking me for input about this course. You just dumped like 1,000 hours into this one.
Yo,
what could I say? What could I say?
My experience on this track is not allowing either of those cuts, man. If this track did not have either of those cuts, it would be a completely different story. You would see this every single war. It would be front run centric central. It's N64 PC on steroids. The shortcut is what gives it that saving grace. It's what allows you to possibly take your bill in 8th into a high spot. I'm not sure if that's what Brody's going to aim to do, but it's definitely something to consider. Or not. That's also a valid play too. I mean, a shock that early possibly means that there's going to be another one, but I mean, if LTA got the first one and they want to get up there, it's not a bad play. This is one of the tracks where I don't think being super duper far behind is that bad, because there's just so much catch-up potential on it. But they definitely need to do something about TK being in first right now, whether that be make the cut or get some blues underway. That dodge definitely helped, but I'm not too sure about the spread of everything at the moment. You got some US back here, which is great on this track purely because of the shortcuts.
The pack is honestly relatively tight. Oh, cool, bumping Brawley off of the path, but that's not going to be able to come into play at all. I do think on the side of US, judging by the items that TK was holding, yeah, so he's just going to hang on to these and block cut. I think that's the best thing you can do right now, right? It's like you just need to make sure that no one takes that cut. It looks like it got unblocked, though. Somebody hit his fib to unblock it, so I think that's LTA in first.
Definitely LTA in first, I believe so. Nice dodge from Brody again. So he dodged with the Bill lap 2, managed to get another start to dodge again lap 3 after being shoved off by the PAL. That's always nice. Barely grazes the wall on the left. I think he got nudged by the funky that was lining up there, and that ever so slightly pushed him out of line, which is going to be really tragic. He really needed to make that cut, so it would have put him in a good position. LTA getting first, but not too sure what else they're getting out of this. Brody hanging back in 7th right now. It's looking like it might be a pretty even race, all things considered, depending on what else LTA were able to manifest out of the situation.
I think with what happened at the end there in mind, LTA they took the cut, and then I think they used the shock to dodge Broly and keep anyone else from also making it. And they were kind of hoping Broly would make it as well, I think.
That was the plan.
No.
That works out really, really well. We didn't really get to, because we saw a lot of TK being in second and there was a bit of a break. We didn't really see anyone else there, and then we saw a lot of Broly there. didn't actually see that LTA was just repping all of the top spots there. So Brody not making it wasn't actually the end of the world, as everybody else managed to do so. But you're definitely right. They definitely centered their shocks around him being able to make it, for sure.
Yeah.
Unfortunate.
The race like wasn't that wild, I think.
For BC3 standards, not even close. Yeah, it was very casual. Casual walk in the park, BC3 race that was.
Yeah, honestly, given how many like players in this room are like capable of making Ultra, I was surprised by how like stagnant that race was throughout it.
I do like that he got a redemption arc though. Like he
yeah.
dodged in the bill, got a power in like 8th, pushed off, see you later, and then back at it again with the star, given another chance at life. Didn't get the dice roll that he needed though, but still a good race for LTA. Going to Maple Treeway. Now, I'm going to ask you about this. I think this track is incredibly front run heavy. Like, top 5.
Oh, yeah.
Like, more than people give it credit for.
I would be inclined to agree with you. I think, like, especially, I mean, in Wars, the shock changes the dynamic, like, a bit. But when I think about this track in Lounge, for instance, I often feel like this is one of the tracks that I, like, can be most consistently run in Lounge, or at least that's how I feel. And like the thing that changes it from Lounge to Wars, like what makes all the difference is the shock coming into play. Because as much of a running track as it is, the one thing that will swing it is the shock. Mostly because of the cannon, because like everybody basically has a dodge available to them, and we'll see which team is able to capitalize off that. I think part of the reason why this is such a dominant running track, by the way, is because if you're the team in top spots and you get the shock, you basically have no reason to use it, and the other team is kind of lost as to how to catch up.
You can also do nasty things with the leaf piles, such as the stars that drop out of the piles. You can just give people in like 2nd, 3rd, 4th a dodge. You can cancel blues with that kind of stuff. That item set up there on the half pipe is like a mandatory part of the track. It's like it's considered an item set for the course, right? But it's just wastes so much time to go for it, and a single person can take out the entire item set. So there's really no boxes at all, from the boxes before the wigglers all the way to the boxes right before the net, and just that entire lapse of time is just your ability to run and trap. And there's no, like, if you get a golden here, like, where are you going to use it?
Exactly.
You know, everywhere's a risk, everywhere's a hazard. Going to see a late cannon shock lap 3, presumably from LTA.
Yeah,
possibly?
I think it was LTA to help their bottom spots catch up. I think they're going to get decent low spot boxes here too. I did see a star get dropped from Bobby that was picked up by USA in 2nd, so it helped TK recover a bit. I do think, like, the length that they were behind by... Oh, TK finding himself in 1st, trying to find a ground shroom last minute from the leaf piles, but it doesn't work out. Sane is going to pick up the 1st from him anyway. I think they're 1-4 right now. Still an okay race for USA. I think LTA, by the time they dodged, was just too far behind for it to have that big of an impact.
Oh, that blue, though. I think that blue got... No, did it?
Wow.
Oh, what is going on right now?
Wait, another bomb? No, wait, the blue was fine. He made it.
Okay, so the blue, he made it, but the bomb, did the bomb catch someone? Because that was double explosion right in front of the line. It's hard to tell as to whether or not that actually affected anything. I guess we'll find out as to whether or not that actually made a difference or not. I definitely agree with you, though. Unfortunately, the shock was too little too late, I feel, but they had no other option. Because like you said, it's a free dodge. Yeah. It allowed them to get better items, but when they were that far behind anyway, yeah, I don't think that mattered. No, Gomez was able to cross the line, yeah. So there was a 2-3, 5-6 race from LTA there, from what I can see. All things considered, not bad. Could have swung way worse. That blue shell was big. That blue on TK was massive, because they had top 2 at that point.
Yeah, that worked out fairly nicely. It's a loss by only 3. They're starting to like stop the US team breaking away in this match, which is good. But they need to kind of work the deficit back in their favor. Right now they're down by 45, and they've kind of like stopped the bleeding, but haven't like begun the healing process. And I think it'll be rough with like how well this USA team is playing right now. They seem to, the thing about like TK getting blued there, or like any of the bad things that seem to be happening to USA West, they always find a way to like recover or like mitigate the damage somehow, and it's very, very impressive.
It's going to be everything that makes the difference, essentially, is those little mistakes like that, or those little mishaps, just finding a way to patch them over. Team US wanting to opt for Moonview Highway, seeming to take a full run strategy, whereas we're going to Coconut Mall, LTA's pick. A little bit more dynamic. Still a run track, all the less, but has potential to catch up. More trapping spots that you can't see around the corners, especially the 2 spiral staircases. Fantastic for running. Definitely the right play for TK to use all 3 of those shrooms, burn them, and get up in front, because you're just in such a brilliant spot on this course when you're in front, because you have access to all these clean turns with no items on any of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's like so critical on this map, is like breaking away right at the beginning if you have the tools to do it. This POW might, yeah, I think that's supposed to be a target POW on LTA, giving Mike a tough time on that turn and giving TK a little more of the break. Mike recovered like pretty well from it, so it wasn't devastating. He's contesting first like about as well as he can, but you know, TK one of the best players in the world. Not that Mike isn't bad himself. But it's going to be, you know, a tougher player to keep up with.
He's not going to make it easy for him. He's going to have his work cut out for him, absolutely. That fib, unfortunate. Really unfortunate fib there. Must have been planted by someone in second or third, and that's how it's all going to begin. But it gets him out first, so I think Mike's getting glued for that. So it's not too bad. I guess TK's option now is that he needs to fall back, but most of the power items are possibly in hold at this point. Or apparently not, so that's fantastic. He manages to get that, so I guess it's going to come down as to whether or not Bobby was able to pull the shot or not, which we'll find out.
Yeah, this is always a weird bagging track, right? Like we mentioned earlier, this might be one of the tracks that kind of works in Jaggy's favor, because there's only so much Bobby can do to differentiate himself as the better bagger, right? Like you have a limited scope of options on a track where you can't go backwards on. The TK trying to seek out a dodge, navigating that very nicely, realizing he can't get a box on the right side, so he goes all the way to the left through the middle to get something. Gonna activate the star immediately to get back to full speed. If he dodges right here at the end, it could be huge with the pack so tight. Not sure if it's gonna happen though.
It's not worth using. Immediately as he got back to that red, you had Mike immediately activate his star as well, and you had a lot of US up there as well, so I don't think giving actually no, that would have been perfect. I guess they didn't pull it then, right? Because you had Broly and Mike.
Yeah, I have to assume that neither side ended up getting it, because like for both teams, there was a situation at the end where it may have been advantageous to use it, especially for LTA with 2 dodges at the end. So it just like didn't. I don't think either side ended up pulling it.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh wow! Surprisingly good for USA. I didn't realize that they had top 2 the entire time, and that's.
Yeah, unfortunate, man. Mike was the only one up there, and he had the star. So like that, if USA had the shock, they just couldn't afford to use it to catch TK up, which was the right play if they did have it. But like you said, they didn't. TK actually taking the box from the baggers at the end of lap 2 there may have been all the difference there, because that might have been the prime opportunity for them to have pulled the lightning. But I don't actually know how the rules work in that regard. Like. If that box is there and the racers are coming by, do the baggers have to respect that and they can't go for it and they have to let the racers go for it, or is there?
I think so. I think the ruling is that you can't. You're not allowed to take boxes from racers while moving forward with the pack. So you have to move forward in order to get that box. So you must. I imagine you have to leave that box there for the runners that are about to come around the corner.
Yeah.
I think going into this last GP, LTA has their work kind of cut out for them. Not that it's impossible, and not that the talent doesn't exist on LTA to make it happen, but we are LTA is down by 68 points with 4 races to go. USA West, honestly, playing so well, dude. Like their best lineup is doing exactly what I expected of them, in that they're converting every race into like an opportunity to gain. It's really impressive.
We'll hopefully be seeing that continue soon here for the United States side. We hopping on for a second. Hello everyone. Hi, Sword. It seems like this match has been going, for the most part, US West way. We're going to be seeing Oreo's Gold Mine come in here for the last few races. Now, how many races are, I think we were looking at 4 more races, right? What are the odds, really? Like, have we really seen any sparks of life from Latin America in a minute now at this point?
There was one race on BC3 that went very, very well in their favor, where I believe they were able to pull 2 of the shocks, and they managed to dodge Broly, and most of them were able to get up there, and that allowed them to pull quite a bit of the deficit back. Like Aiden said, like they found a way to stop the bleeding, but they hadn't started the healing process right now. But that Coconut Mall race kind of swinging in the opposite direction kind of undoes the you know, what BC3 undid. So now we're looking at a situation where they really just...
They got to go in, but we're seeing from TK's side, that is not going to be what Broly is. The only going in is into the chasm there. He's going to hit that banana and fall off. Broly, unfortunate findings he's getting in this one. Of course, they're in a relatively decent spot right now. You know, they've already beaten the Irish side, so they have some kind of cushion here for today. But still, though, you would like to see them, if you're Latin America, really make sure you get this one in the bag, or at least try to make this as close as possible. We'll see TK here in a Mega towards the middle of the second lap, and in the meantime, Broly a good ways back. So both of our perspectives struggling here. I haven't been able to spot out how the bagging situation has gone. Do you recognize who the Daisy is for both baggers here?
It's Jaggy.
Jaggy, got it, yeah.
And then you've got Bobby on the other side. Bobby's been doing mad work so far, though. He's been able to negate a lot of tiny little mishaps that have happened on the US side. He's managed to flip the coin and make it into a beneficial situation. And
we also started seeing the Funky Kong in the back racing forward now. Daisy and Funky kind of meeting with each other, and they're like playing around with, when should I use this? When should I use this? I have to use it soon. We're seeing the Mega use, and yep, that's going to be TK dodging in the Mega right there. Maybe a target shock. Yeah, it's going to be a target shock, at least on 1, maybe 2 members of LTA. Maybe 3. Jack actually is going to be the one falling back there. So it's the end of the last lap. Is LTA going to have any presence up here? We have USA in 3 and 4. Nothing to be said about top 2, though. And this could be it for LTA if they don't have any of the top 2 spots. Mike getting taken out at the end. Broly speeding up from nowhere. And maybe, just maybe being able to save something here for LTA.
Possibly. I think US definitely secured first, but LTA may have gotten 2-3 out of that, with US then getting 4. If they did get 2-3, that kind of hangs them in there still. But yeah, really unfortunate. TK had the right idea, pulled the Mega straight away on Goldmine. The one shock spot that determines everything on this track. Had no reason to use it at any point other than lap 3, where it's going to kick the most. US getting top 2, LTA following up with 3-4.
Yeah.
Not looking good for LTA right now. They definitely need a swing in the other way.
Definitely. Welcome back, Aiden, I believe.
Yes.
You're okay. Recovered, healed. Love it. Love to hear it.
Healed from one brief moment to get some water. We have USA up by 81, 315 to 234.
The track votes, man. The track votes. There's been so many that have just favoured because they're clearly going for different strategies. You've got the US team that are going for getting 2 of their runners up there, getting someone in third to just back like crazy, get them a break, and then have someone in the mid pack, late pack to hang around and then catch up at the very end. Whereas LTA, not entirely sure. I feel like they're occupying a lot of the mid spots a lot more of the time, which could possibly give them access to like Megas and Powers and whatnot, but they're just not being able to make those changes necessary to get up to the front in the time that's needed. Been having nothing but front run courses. Hasn't been any kind of like polar swings. We've got another one coming out from, I think this is LTA actually voting this one, Grumble Volcano. Now I feel I have very mixed feelings towards this one. I'm curious to hear what you two feel in regards to this one.
So let's just be clear. As far as I understand, you hate this track.
Yeah.
You think the rock hop should be like removed from the game, if I recall.
Well, it's not removed, it's more like the whole dynamic of this track comes down to this one part, and like with how smart US is playing right now by coordinating the shots, getting Megas, getting stars and all that kind of stuff, this track's possibly one of the worst in regards to like, if you have control over the shot, you can just control the outcome of the whole race. That was huge, though. That's massive.
That's a
I'm not
big
sure.
one, yeah.
Yeah, not sure if that was from LTA or US or whatnot, but losing a golden, unfortunate. Probably wanted to do the rock hop, no stop with the golden, get up there, because getting up there is everything on this one, especially if you can control the pace of the lightning on this one. He's going to opt to hold for his star. Not entirely sure what the best play would be from LTA at this point. I don't know if you think they should all drop back and try to dodge along with the US members that will probably be going for this cut.
Yeah, you got to kind of hope for something here. I imagine that's part of what the star is for right now. We'll see so many members of LTA at the back. We see Jack going for rock, Mike going for rock, and TK going for rock. All three people making it. TK a little rougher than the rest. And I think this is a USA. Is this a USA top 3 right now, or is the LTA like maybe in first?
No, LTA is definitely in second. I didn't catch who was in first, unfortunately, but I mean, second is great here. You can pull a single shroom, much like that. There you go. TK pulling one in third. Fantastic opportunity. If US have the shock, that can be pretty bad for them.
Yeah, because if he uses shroom cut here, and then calls it right as he lands, it's like
it's over at this point. But they're not going to. Oh, okay, maybe. No. I think that was an LTA one, because you got two LTA dodging there. Yeah, no, big. That's huge for them. I do think US got first. Is he going to make it to the line? Yes, he is. Okay.
But I get Reddit on the line? Oh, okay, no, he's fine,
Yeah, 2-3-5. Not sure who got first there. Possibly LTA, because I did see Jack at the back there, and Killua as well. So that only leaves one other person other than TK, who potentially could have been up there.
Yeah, so it's a decent. I think that's still probably a winning race for USA, or either by a small margin for them or a small margin in LTA's favor. That shock was really big. I'm glad they were able to convert off of it. 1, 4, 6, 8, 9. We'll see who. Yeah, that's a +1 race for LTA. So at least they got something, but with only 3 races to go and 80 points down, it's going to need to be a little better than that.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. I think if that red hit TK before the line, that would have allowed their other 2 players to pass him up at the line. That would have completely swung the dynamic of that one. Probably not by enough, though. It's just they need to occupy first. First is just so much. It's just a large portion of the point distribution. They can't allow the US to be getting that first place position.
For what it's worth, that's an 80-point deficit. Top 5 is worth +41, so they quite literally need 2 top 5 2 times in a row to win.
Ooh.
Maybe we'll see an all-around.
It's possible that they might not have a choice after doing that. They're all just voting a random slew of tracks, it seems now as well. You've got Team US voting TF, but we've got Sherbetland, Moonview, and Summit all on the board. But we're going again to a US pick of Toad's Factory. Is this a great track for an all run? Do you reckon? I feel like the shock has such powerful.
No.
Yeah, not even.
Not at all.
Yeah, right. This isn't where dreams are made. If you run top 5, yeah.
I think the big problem here, like if you're all running, we won't get an idea if they're doing that until like past this first turn. Baggers tend to go past the first set of boxes here to try to give someone on their team the bill. Yeah, somebody's gonna start heading back. Jaggy heading back. Looks like the USA bagger is in 10th, but on this track it doesn't really matter because of it's another one of those tracks similar to Coconut Mall where you can't go backwards all the way. So both teams still trying to contend for shock. TK hitting Mike's banana. That's a nice way to get him out of second. And Mike's probably going to be able to extend his lead a bit off that. LTA still in 6-8, though, taking up a decent chunk of the bottom spots. They're going to need to catch up with Mike if they want this race to be large enough in their favor to make a difference in the outcome.
This mega is going to be huge, though. TK doesn't even need to really worry about being up there as long as he probably knows the point advantage right now. He just needs to know, like, right, if I just prevent these LTA players from getting to the top, it doesn't even matter if they get first or second. Like, I can just completely decimate the remaining members of their team. And that's it, because they don't even need to expand on their lead anymore. They just need to hold on to it.
Ooh, Jack getting Brawly. Cool also getting hit up at the end, but that's really going to give the people in top slots even more space. I think Mike is still in first, but Jack was closing in on his tail. I think, like, from a US's perspective, all they really need to do is, like, make sure that the race just isn't too bad for them, even if they lose, because the lead that they have is already so big. One thing to mention, too, is that for USA and LTA, for that matter, the point differential has no consequence anymore. This whoever just wins this war was the first seed in their group, and then whoever lost was the second seed in their group. Brawly getting absolutely destroyed, comboed on the backwards conveyor belt. Race is pretty much over for him, and that shock moving quite a few people up. I don't know how it shook results. I have a hard time imagining LTA didn't walk away with first on that race with the lead Mike had, but we'll see.
It's just insult to injury, though. Like, they need a race where they can catch up and they can occupy most of the top 5, and just to have moments like that where the shock hits, you get back green in your animation of being stuck there, and then you get builds whilst the conveyor slowly careens you in the wrong direction. Definitely not the best of situations to be involved in. It's going to be a top 2 from USA with a 4-5 to boot. Pretty sure at that point it's probably curtains.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. It is gonna be certainly a bad race for rather not good enough for LTA, and very, very unfortunate that it didn't work out for them there. In top spot, USA dropping so many top spots that race. I think it may mathematically be over. I think it actually is.
It definitely is. Well, I mean, IREX said they were down 80, right?
Yeah.
And the top 5 is a 41-point gain. So 2 top 5s before that race would have had them win by 2. They just, with that race going in the way it went, I think even with 2 top 5s now, they're still going to, like, at best case scenario, lose by 10 or something. It's not feasible at this point. I'm interested to see if they will go for an all-run strategy, but I think US have just managed to capitalize on the leads and have been able to just play around with that in almost every race that has happened so far.
You can just kind of, I think, like, on LTA's side, I guess you can kind of chill. You may as well 5-run just for kicks. It's not going to have an impact, unfortunately, anymore. I think with that in mind, we can kind of get a little preview of how this top 8 bracket is starting to shape up as we head into this Sherbet Land race. Also, wow, we just, as we go through these, I realize how many of these tracks that you just have you must have such an intimate knowledge of, man.
My favorite is just being in a call with Ira. He's like, "Oh no, it's the curse track." And ever since he said that, every event I've casted has had this track played in it. Fantastic. Like I said to Ira, this one's just becoming more and more popular as years go on, because I think people realize this is a great run track, and it's got the catch up. And again, because it requires a bit of extra knowledge to know how to drive it, with the terrain being off-road, gradually pulling you outwards, you can get that edge over people. It's the same with DK Mountain. You've got all of the tight turns that some people don't know how to navigate. It's a great running track. But yeah, no, it's nice having the insight on the courses, but they definitely play a lot differently in a competitive setting as opposed to the chill environment that I'm used to playing these tracks on, for sure. But I don't know, like, if this was voted and you were playing in a lineup, would you wince at the fort? I mean, where do you stand?
Yeah, but I think it's because I'm not, like, particularly... I think my weakness isn't so much my... I actually feel pretty confident when I drive this track, funnily enough. But it's more, I feel like my strategy lacks a lot of depth on this course. Like, where I should be, like, bagging, where I should be committing to running, how I should use my shrooms in particular. I think I just lack a lot of that knowledge, and that's one of the reasons that I don't like it very much. Because ultimately, it's because I'm not very good at it. However, I do completely agree with you where it's like a race where people who are... It's a track where if people are particularly good at it, this is a track where you can, like, easily differentiate yourself from those who know less about it. So we are heading into the third lap. TK rocking this bomb in fourth. Not even sure what he's going to do with it. I gotta be honest. I wonder what the USA call is like at this point. If they've just kind of like turned it off and like they don't really care at this point, or if they're still putting effort in. Acme dodging up, and it looks like one more member of LTA as well. This dodge is gonna swing it maybe in LTA's favor at the end, but a little futile, unfortunately.
Yeah, at this point, it's just too much. I think just the mental note that it's already over can just really affect people's decision making when it comes to this game. Because this game, I honestly think, is a mental game first and a test of skill and wit second. And I honestly think that's the most important part in these matches, is that people need to realize, like, if a race goes the wrong direction and it's a massive point loss, just to immediately shake it off and just treat it like it happened a week ago. And just go into the next one with a clean mindset.
Yeah, that's really, really critical to succeeding, I think. And we see 2, 3, 5, 6 coming out. A pretty good race for USA West to end on. I think that's a win for them by 5. And they take the war 419 to 313. That's going to wrap it up. LTA, unfortunately, falling short. But still making it out of the group. So with that in mind, we can kind of get a little preview of the bracket and like how it's going to shape up with the last couple matches to go. For the first match of the bracket, it's Japan versus Latin America confirmed. Next, one of the other matches in the bracket stage will be USA West versus the Netherlands. And then the other 2 matches currently undecided, waiting to see how Group C plays out with USA East and Canada. One of them will be playing UK, and one of them will be playing Norway, depending on the results of that group. So we're going to be getting around to Canada versus Italy in just a short bit. They've already started. We're going to hop into that war midway after a short break. I think we're going to swap some casters out. But with that match over, Tom, it was a pleasure to cast with you. And yeah, we'll be back in just a few minutes. Thanks for watching, guys.
Stay tuned.